Hey everyone, it's Mr. Sauce here again. I just want to go over assignment number 5, the skill of solving proportions, and that will help us out with completing that specific assignment there. When we solve proportions, guys, and I like this one because there's a couple steps that work every single time when we work with proportions, and those two steps are going to be cross multiplying, which means to multiply diagonally, and to divide by the number that is next to the unknown, which is going to be the letter in these problems, right? So if I show you these examples, each one of them has the unknown, right? The unknowns in all of these ones are x, but the letter doesn't matter. I could change up the x to any letter, right? We could use M. You could even use just like a question mark, right? It doesn't matter what we use for a letter. I'm just going to change that to a G. Okay. And yeah, it doesn't matter what letter we use, right? It just represents an unknown value, right, that we're looking to find. So our first step, everybody, is going to be to cross multiply, or like I said, multiply diagonally. So if we work with number 1, and we have the values 2 over 5 equals x over 25. Okay? A proportion is just two ratios that equal one another, just like an equivalent ratio. It's just another name of saying that. Okay? However, when we multiply diagonally, right, we take the two diagonal numbers and we multiply them with each other. So it's 2 times 25. And if you were to do 2 times 25, you'd end up with 50. If you think of 25 as a quarter, okay, like a like money quarter, like a coin, and you had 2 quarters, you'd have 50 cents, right? That's another way we could do that multiplication. The next thing we do, right, is we're going to just drop down the equal sign. So we'd have 50 equals, and then we have to multiply the other two diagonal terms, right? So 5 times x. And this one can be a little tricky because we're not used to using these variables or these letters, right? We call it a variable when we work with algebra, but it also just represents an unknown number, right? We're looking to find that. But anytime you multiply 5 times that unknown, you just smush those two terms together to be 5x, right? 5 times x is 5x. Okay, no space in between them. They just glued together. So we can write 5x here. All right, so step 1 would be to cross multiply our terms. And I'm just going to slide that over for so we don't get in the way of the next example. I'll just rewrite it. 5 times x equals 5x. Okay? So step 1 is to cross multiply. And then I said step 2 is to divide by whatever the number next to the unknown, right? Or the letter, right? It's the same way. So our unknown in this case is x, and the number that's next to the x there would be 5. So we're going to divide both sides by 5 here. And take a second, see if you can find out, you can pause the video to find out what 50 divided by 5 would be. Right? And if you got 10 as our answer here, then you got that correct there. Absolutely. Good job. The reason why we divide by 5 is because 5 and 5, anytime you have the same number on top of itself, it cancels it out. Right? So 5 divided by 5 cancels out, leaving us with just our unknown, and that's what we're looking for. All right, so our x number, or x letter, equals 10, and 10 would be your final answer here. And if we just rewrite that, ratio of 2 to 5 equals 10 to 25, we know that our missing value was 10 here. All right, and that's all we're doing for these types of problems, right? 2 steps, we cross multiply, and then we divide by the number that's next to the x, or the missing value itself. Right? These next two are going to be a little different. They're the same process, but a little different because we're not going to get a whole number as our final answer. Okay, we're going to end up with a decimal, right? And that's perfectly fine. You just got to trust yourself. But the process is still the same. So we're going to multiply diagonally. So if we have 3 over 8, or 3 to 8, that equals the proportion of 7 to some number, right? To m in this case. And we want to multiply these diagonal terms. So we have 3 and m diagonal and 8 and 7 diagonal from one another. So take a second, see if you can create our new equation like we did over here in number 1, but with these new terms. You can pause the video. And if you got, so remember 3 times m equals 3m. So if we got 3m, and that equaled 8 times 7, which is 56, then you got that absolutely correct. Great. And that would be step number 1, cross multiply. Take a second to see if we can find out what the number that we're going to be dividing by next is, okay, to complete this process. And you can pause the video to do so. And if you said it's going to be 3, then you're also correct, right? So it's always that number that's next to that variable or the letter, the unknown. Okay, so the number in this case would be 3. So we're going to divide both of these numbers by 3 because 3 and 3 cancel out, leaving us with just our m, and that's what we're looking for. It's like a scavenger hunt. We're trying to find out what m equals. Okay, and then 56 divided by 3, it's not going to be a pretty number, but it's going to equal 18 point, if you type that into a calculator, it would say a whole bunch of 6s, and maybe a 7 at the end because your calculator rounded for you. However, you could either leave it as 18.66, or the symbol that shows a repeated number over and over again is a line, and that line goes over whatever number is being repeated. So this value here with all these 6s, it's the same as what I have here, 18.6 with a line over the 6, a repeater symbol we call it. Or you could say 18.66 would also work for me. Right, but the idea is that we can cross multiply and then divide by the number that's next to the missing value here, the letter, what we're looking for. All right, last example here. See if we can pause it and do both of the steps real quick, and we'll see what we get. So remember, cross multiply and then divide. All right, and let's see if we can, if we get the same value that I'm going to be showing you here. And just remember, we cross multiply, so it's going to be 12 times g, and then we're going to have 13 times 3, and 12 times g, right? Remember 12 times g, we're just going to smush those together, so it'll be 12g. And that's going to equal 13 times 3, which in fact equals 39, right? And you can use your calculator for these skills, absolutely, right? Especially when we do our division part. Okay. Our last step, right? We want to get this g by itself. So the way we do that is we find out what number is next to the g, and that's going to be 12 in this case. So we're going to divide both of these numbers here by 12. 12 and 12 cancel out. And 39 divided by 12, if you were to type that into a calculator, we'd end up with 3.25 or 3 1/4, right? And that's what our missing value here would be for our proportion. And that would complete that statement here. All right. I hope this video helped with assignment number 5 here, but you can apply these same skills that we're doing here to any of those I think there are 8 questions on that assignment. So good luck with it. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I will see you guys very shortly. Take care.